Hi, good morning. Welcome to VYAPT Growth Series, Season 3, Episode 14. This platform promotes authentication of information and talks about growth of various business sectors through industry leaders. In our growth series today, we have with us Mr. Mathew Job, Executive Chairman of Watertec India Private Limited and Catalyst for Growth. He is known for transforming companies into one of the top performers in the industry, leading profitability. He is known for his business acumen, decisiveness, and application. Let's welcome to Mr. Mathew Job in VYAPT Growth Series. Namaskar,
Thank
Mathew.
you. Namaste. Thank you.
We are so excited to have you on our platform, Matthew. And you have been such a leader who has been, uh, called as the growth leader across various industries you have worked in. And it's really our pleasure to have you on our platform.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So we'll move on with our curiosity, and today our first curiosity is: can you tell us a little around the growth strategies of bath fitting and accessories industry?
Yeah, I think there are multiple things that are actually driving the growth of this industry in India. I think the first thing I could think about is the rapid urbanization and infrastructure development. As all of us know, the large part of India still lives in the in the villages. While as opportunities start to really to really grow in the across the country, there is significant level of migration from the villages to the urban areas. While earlier it was only primarily in the metros, maybe a Mumbai or a Delhi and so on and so forth. You will see a lot of this actually now opportunities opening up in tier one and tier two towns, and hence migration happening from the villages not only to the metros but also to these kind of tier one, tier two towns. So when there is this kind of urbanization happening, obviously that means you need much more residential spaces that need to be built there. Uh, and in parallel, I think what also one needs to keep in mind is the focus that the country and the government is having on infrastructure building. When I'm saying infrastructure, it could just be in terms of airports, hotels, hospitals, and so on and so forth. So both these actually, tend to develop a market for bathroom products. Uh, you know, it- of course, and then one needs to keep in mind this actually calls for development of the bathroom fitting market at all strata. It's not just the high end or the medium end, because a lot of housing construction that's happening, you will find actually a lot of premium housing is growing quickly, but also because of the government's initiative on affordable housing, the Prime Minister Awas Yojana, there's a lot of affordable housing getting built. And as the migration happens, it is at all levels. So you will find that there is the bathroom products industry is growing at all strata. That's one. I would think infrastructure and urbanization is one. Second, I would think is merely the disposable income growth. As disposable incomes grow, and as more and more Indians become more affluent, or maybe even growing into the middle income category, obviously they would like to have much more better products. So also to that extent, because of rising disposable incomes, there is also, I would think, growth in terms of the kind of products they look for. So more value-added products, which would also mean that the value of the products that are getting sold also tend to increase, and that also increases the overall size of the market. So all in all, I would think that at least for the next many years, I think the demand for housing is far more than the supply that's coming in, along with growing affluence and growing infrastructure. All these together, I think, will keep the growth of the bathroom products industry, I think, in the high single digits, or maybe even in the low double digits as we go forward. Yeah.
So you're so optimistic around the growth of this particular industry, and primarily you talked about the middle segment that is bound to grow, and a lot of push from the government as well, in terms of housing development and other things where a product could be handy in those kind of initiatives. But the other question which comes into mind is, when you talk around growth, there has to be a sustainable growth as well, both from the environment point of view as well as from the business point of view. So how can you drive sustainable business growth, particularly in this particular segment of bath fitting and accessories industry? And are there any emerging trends or areas of focus you foresee driving growth in this
Yeah.
sector?
Just linked to one point which you made, that most of that the primarily the growth is likely to be focused in the mid segment. I would think that we can expect growth in all segments. Like, the reason why I say that is, the government is also highly focused on few things. For example, we have been talking about Clean India, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan for quite some time.
True.
There is also the initiative to bring water, Jal Nal Yojana, for example, to bring water and to more households, so that when you build toilets you also need water supply. So or the other way, when you have water supply you can also have more toilets in homes. So I think, and when new water supplies come in the less affluent areas, I think typically what tends to grow is the lower end of the market. But there's also, I mentioned, people trying to upgrade, people who are earlier using the entry level products growing into the mid segment, and people who are using mid segment products growing into the higher segment. So I think we will see growth. I think in India we are going to see growth in all segments. Entry level, which is being driven by these kind of programs, as they get the first water connection, the first toilet. When they upgrade, they go into the middle segment, and when people become even richer, they grow into the top segment. So I think that will drive growth across all segments. I think there are a few trends at play which I think we need to keep in mind. I think especially after that, after COVID, for example, I think there is much more. I would say much more, knowledge, or much more importance for hygiene and hygiene related things. So I think that is one trend that I see. For example, one could look at a requirement for products which are more hygiene specific. So for taps which you don't need to touch, for example, things like those, where becomes after COVID, people are worried about touching many surfaces. So that's one, I think, and that's likely to intensify as we go forward. The second, I think, is very important, is also in terms of water. I think everybody knows that water is a finite resource. It's one of the most valuable resources in the world. And if you think of the recent experience in cities like Bangalore, which have had problems, and in terms of water availability. So I think one trend which is going to be very important is because the bathroom products tend to dispense water. So I think design of products which are more water efficient. And I already see in the industry a trend, for example, more dual flush. Dual flush is going to be important, and faucets and showers which give you the same experience with less water, with less water consumption. I think that is something which is also going to be remarkably important as we go forward, because the fact is, as more and more areas get the benefit of running water, the fact that we need to use water carefully also becomes very important. But I think in India, the other challenge is you need to marry that with affordability. Okay, because of the fact that it's not that just because we want to conserve water, we can produce and market products which are very expensive. That is not possible in a market like India. So we have to bring in, I think, intelligent design which marries affordability with still being water efficient. And I think this is going to be on both sides. One is, of course, the consumer is going to look for affordability, but more and more, I think government and similar statutory bodies are going to, over time, also put some standards like you have in the electrical industry, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency standards for 3-star and 4-star and 5-star. I believe that over time, and maybe sooner than later, the government is actually going to bring in standards on water usage, because I think water is a very important resource, especially in a country like India, which is one of the first countries where people believe will have a water stress. So I would think these are the different kinds of trends that I foresee. One is in terms of requirement for more hygiene products, hygiene related, but more water efficient. And third is as I mentioned, as the society becomes more affluent, you must have read recently that Indians traveling abroad have dramatically increased their exposure to what is available globally compared to 10-15 years ago, and they want to bring those kind of quality and design into the Indian homes. So I think that's another thing. So while you will also have increasing trend of importance of design, the kind of finishes that are required on the products, brush metal finish, and so on and so forth. trying to recreate the experience you get in the best hotels globally into your home. So you'll see these three or four trends play out. Requirement for products that are more hygienic, antibacterial, antiviral on your bathroom products, because something you touch and feel every day. Okay. Second is water efficiency or economy of water usage. At the same time, importance of design, and the latest materials being used on the product. So I think these are the three or four trends that I foresee will play out in this industry as we go forward. Yeah.
So you talked about an important innovation that even in the faucet segment and the
Yes.
shower segment,
Yes. Yes.
we need to do a lot of innovation so the people start feeling the same uh, experience they had with a lot of water. So we need showers with less water consumption. Still, the kind of feeling what people should have will be the same feeling they used to had earlier. So a lot of innovation, I'm sure, is coming
I
into
think,
this space.
yeah, I think it's intelligent design, because you have to be able to deliver this while still having the product within the consumer's reach. You cannot afford to make it so expensive that people cannot buy that and end up buying products that are less water efficient. So you need to marry those, and that's where intelligent design comes in.
That's so wonderful coming from you, Mathew. My next question, we talked around the growth of the industry, and we talked around little around innovation. We touched on sustainability as well, but the important part also coming from the localization of product or from the job creation point of view, because we are seeing this kind of pressure coming from across the countries of the globe. So how crucial is it today to promote localization of products to generate further employment? And are there any specific technological advancement that would contribute to the success of this particular industry?
I think, yeah, I mean, localization is important from multiple perspectives. I think one, you know, uh, every country, including India, we have our own local conditions. For example, let's look at the water condition itself. The availability of water, the quality of water that's available is very different in India from somewhere else. But why within India? Even within India, you have different states having different quality of water. Somewhere it is it's much more hard water. Somewhere you're using borewell water. Somewhere it's government supplied, where there is a lot of treatment that is being done. So first thing is, we need to develop products that suit our local conditions. I think if you look at the water quality, say in Europe or China or the US, it will be very different from what is there in India. So we need to design products that are well suited for our local condition. Okay, and there is the first requirement of having local design and localization. The second is, of course, we have to over time generate. It's not only for the business. I think as an economy, we need to generate much more jobs. I think the industry owes it. Because we are working not only for our shareholders, but also to benefit society as a whole.
True.
Because I think that is what is important. Eventually, businesses that really thrive and sustain over time are the ones that deliver, of course, growth and profitability, but also benefit the country, the local communities we live in. And I think therein, I think the importance of local manufacturing becomes very important, because I think over time, unless we also develop, our own manufacturing facilities, it won't really work over time. And I think just for even for Watertec, for example, even today, more than 80% or close to 90% of what we sell, we make it in our own factories, and that gives us a lot of ability, one, to develop and design and manufacture the kind of products that we believe will help, not only help us win in the market, but also deliver the economies, but also help the communities and the societies in which we live in. So I think going forward, I think as a company, we believe a couple of things are going to be very important for us. One is design, like I mentioned, design of products that are that suit Indian conditions, that cater to the trends that I mentioned about briefly, but also in terms of control on quality, in terms of being cost efficient, of generating jobs for the societies we live in. I think and that's why we have, as a company, Watertec has invested a lot in factories, but also industry 4.0 compliant factories, so that we not only produce products, but we produce the best products for our consumers here in India. Yeah.
So you talked about a lot of employment coming in through a lot of manufacturing facilities, and you talked paid emphasis that there has to be a lot of localization as well, because it's important to take care of the entire society, not limiting to only our shareholders. That's so wonderful coming from you, Matthew. And now I move on to our next round, which we call it as flip round.
Yeah.
Uh, so you have been exceptionally good in terms of business and coming with other things, but this is a flip round wherein
Yeah.
uh, host becomes guest and the guest becomes host. And an introduction in our VYAPT growth series, season 3. So
Yeah.
so now it's your turn. One question coming from you has to be answered in 30 seconds time.
Yeah. So how do you see the role of technology and analytics, data analytics, shaping the future of strategy consulting, for example?
That's a very important question, Matthew, coming from you. There was a time wherein the decisions were based entirely on guts, but today a lot of data analytics are there in order to ensure that whatever strategy decisions we are taking, is based on some kind of data, and some kind, and a lot of technology is also available. Interestingly, but the external factors affecting a business is also increasing to a great extent, compared to what it was earlier. So even today, a lot of data, when you use a lot of data, even today, many a times we fail as well in many of the business we have seen across the globe. So today what I feel is, it's your gut feeling, it's your the decision what you take, plus the technology is going to help you a lot in shaping up the strategy consulting. There's one more important part is, a lot of startups have come up with a lot of disruptive technology into different segments we have seen, and I remember it's very very important to take care of those disruptive technologies as well, because those technologies may be very small today, but they can come up really well in another 5 to 7 years time. And that's where even Mr. One of the innovators, Clayton Christensen, talk about in its books Innovator Dilemma, that any company for that matter has to be very very crystal clear around what is happening today and what can happen in the future. I think these are some of the things which will drive strategy consulting in the future.
Okay.
Thank you so much for asking this question, Matthew. And I move on to the next round, which we called it as learning on the go. One question coming to you, and this is not a business question. Matthew, you have worn many hats, and whatever hats you have actually on, it's had actually helped you, shape up your personality, and all the time you have been successful, came up with some wonderful uh, results. So can you narrate an incident that has been a source of incredible learning for you? Because our viewers would like to know that, obviously, you must be having some kind of learning which has helped you to attain such a path, and bring success and laurels to wherever you have worked for organizations.
Yeah, I would think that I would say two things. One is in every company, in every situation, you will always face situations that you have not really planned for. And the question is, how do you then how can you then be agile and adapt to that situation? I will tell you an example which I still remember. It is way back from my first company, which was Philips. Like most MNCs in India, Philips, and I was in the lighting business. Like most MNCs in India, Philips was extremely strong in the urban markets. Okay, so if you go to the big cities, tier one towns, Philips had market shares in 30, 40%, 40, 50%. But like most MNCs, as you go into this rural and semi-rural markets, the market share tends to drop down. So for many years, Philips has tried to solve this problem through different methodologies. So when I was and I had spent about 7, 8 years in Philips, I was then asked to look at this problem and see if I can work out a solution. So after doing a lot of research both within the company but also looking at best-in-class companies outside our industry, I decided then to bring in a new distribution structure to address this problem. On top of that, I also decided that we will need to do a second brand. Not just a Philips brand, because a Philips brand is more premium, more suited for the urban market. So I said we needed to do two things: build a new distribution infrastructure, which is more like a super stockist model, more like a hub and spoke model, married with bringing a second brand. And that's how we would go and implement this. So in presentation to the board of directors and to the global management of the company, this was approved, and I started actually putting together a new sales team, because I also believed that this could also only be implemented if you brought in a new sales team. So I hired about 30, 40 people, from across, from the best companies, who already knew how to implement this hub and spoke model because we wanted to bring in capability and do it quickly. So I pulled together a team of roughly 40 people from different companies, from the FMCG companies, FMCD companies who have done this before. And, we were all set to bring this to market, in a launch. So I had prepared a program, we had managed the funding, we had, finalized the brand, the second brand name and everything. And we were just about 45 to 60 days from launch. But suddenly a decision was made globally at the Philips company that we would not launch any second brand anymore, and that the company would only remain focused on promoting the Philips brand, except in markets where he already had a second brand from history. And immediately, there was a problem because we had planned to launch a second brand, and that was a cornerstone of our entire approach. At the same time, I had hired 40 people who had left their previous jobs, and believing in what we were going to implement. And I could not just go back and tell them that, the company now cannot launch a second brand, and now all 40 of you, may have to look for options outside. I think something, because they trusted in the company, in the story that we had sold them, and also in the plans that we had shared to them. And that's how they left the companies, great companies where they were working, and come and joined us. So I was in a dilemma because I had this 40 people whom I had recruited personally, whom I was now responsible for. So after considerable discussion, I thought that, we could still implement the second go-to-market model, but probably not using the second brand. And I had to do quite a bit of, I would say, some kind of lobbying with the leadership team, not only in India but globally, to let me try that plan, without a second brand, and because it took quite a bit of discussion and explanation, because I had to convince them that I could still deliver most of the results, even though second brand was not going to be available. And they allowed, finally, for me to do a pilot, in one part of India, which I did along with the team, and I think it was fantastic. The results were outstanding, to the extent that in a year and a half, 10% of the turnover of the Philips lighting in India started coming from these markets. I think the big learning for me is, even the best laid plans can actually, can face unforeseen obstacles at the nth hour. Okay. At that point of time, you have a responsibility to the people around in terms of, what do you do, in such a situation? Protect the interest of the business, but also make sure that the people who are there are also taken care of. And I think it requires agility, to think something, what can you do at that point of time? It requires adaptability to be able to change your plans and then communicate to the management and convince them. And third, then, go out and then implement it, so that, so whatever you have committed, you're able to deliver. And I say that is very important because, it helped me a lot, because even in my last stint in Crompton, we were faced with multiple challenges. And I think the biggest one, which is true for all of the country and the world, was the COVID pandemic. Every company makes, for example, plans to face, they call business continuity plan, and so on and so forth. When a factory shuts down or you have a problem in one region, but never for the entire business shutdown. Your factories can't function, your salespeople can't go to the market. And when I was faced that situation, I thought back to the situation which I had faced, and how agility, adaptability helped. And actually, I applied the same principles, in the time when the COVID pandemic came in. And I would say that two things we ensured: that our people were well taken care of. We did not have to cut any job. We did not have to cut any salaries. We ensured that the people were well taken care of. And also, we adapted the business plan in terms of how do we move forward, because we did not know how long this would last. We have to be agile. We have to be adaptable. But I think the lessons that I've learned, at that point of time in Philips, stood us in good stead. And I would say that, we managed not only to manage the pandemic period well, but actually thrive, and actually emerge stronger from it, than when we went into it, without cutting a single job. And I think, Crompton was recognized at that point of time as one of the best companies in terms of managing the crisis. So I think it was that learning from Philips which stood me, very well during all those crises which we faced. And you mentioned, of course, that, about success. And, I think success and failures always go hand in hand. You have many successes, but you also have failures which you learn from, and then you implement that to bring your next success. So I would think, yeah, I mean, those learnings which come from successes and also that come from the few failures you have actually help you, in your next role and when you face your next crisis. Yeah.
I think Matthew, one of the things which has been prominent is your decisiveness. And I remember, in one of our talks earlier, you talked about that one cannot, go away from taking decisions. One can take decisions. One can take 10 decisions. 6, 7 will be successful. 2, 3
Yeah.
may also fail as well. So I think more of the of an understanding of the market, better understanding, crystal clear, and looking forward to the future, achieving things what you're looking at is something I think you are known for.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's an interesting incident you shared with us, Matthew. Thank you so much for sharing this, and it was lovely speaking to you on business as well as on your leadership front. I look forward to see a lot of amazing things from your side in business, and we keep on hearing about you and the leadership skills which you demonstrate and the kind of profitability you're bringing for the organization. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure. My
being
pleasure.
part of
Thank
the
you.
Upload series.
Thank you. Bye.